I was an early adopter of the P2S, which is fancy talk for I dropped $600 on this thing within days of its release. Because it's a revolutionary piece of. No, it's not like my other three printers. Well, once you see it, you'll understand, but no, you need to know the X. It's not my first Bambu machine, nor is it my most beloved printer, but it has quickly become my trusty steed, my workhorse tool that I don't think about for more than 2 seconds beyond loading filament and hitting print. And that first part is going to change as soon as I mentally justify buying the AMS. One of the reasons I bought this printer was to make it my secondary ABS machine to my Voron 2.4, to print replacement and upgrade parts for my precious baby printer trial. I'll be making an entire separate video about these upgrades, but in short, I'm replacing the entire extruder and toolhead assembly on my Voron with a more compact one that has way better part cooling and, in my opinion, looks a lot cooler. Since this will be the first big batch of Voron parts that my P2S is printing, I want to take some time first to maintain it, tune my filament as perfectly as I can, and try to get rid of the VFAs that this printer is notorious for. In this video, we're going to cover a basic maintenance routine that applies to most 3D printers, test if Bambu has improved the VFA problem that the P2S was known for, and give my lungs a much needed exhaust upgrade. Let's get started. White balance, white balance. I gotta fix my white balance. Wow, okay. I was actually not expecting it to turn out this good. So this looks really smooth. The vertical lines you can see are just from the infill that this print used, so I'm not worried about those. The test for VFAs usually is if you run your fingernail across it. If there's strong VFAs, you'll feel kind of like a vibration. Like if your car is driving down the road and you veer out of your lane, you have those little vibrating parts in the side of the road. That's what it might feel like. But this is perfectly smooth. This looks so much better than before. And I'll put a picture of what it used to look like here on screen right now so you can see what I'm comparing this to. I'm really impressed with that new firmware, and maybe it was the lubrication that helped too, but this is great news for the Voron parts. When I'm printing PLA or parts I don't care much about, I'll just throw the generic print profiles on and call it a day. But Voron parts have been thoughtfully designed with love and care, and I think they deserve special attention for that. So we're going to make extra sure that my prints turn out splendidly. To do this, My test print is going to be one of the printed parts for the new external exhaust fan kit that Bambu Lab released to address the dog shit air filtration that the P2S has. I'm not happy about spending $20 plus shipping on a safety feature that should have come stock, but I want the upgraded filtration more than I need to hang on to my morals about this. And these fit into a printed enclosure that they released the Maker World files for alongside. I'm going to be printing all the required parts with Voron print settings to make them benchmarks for what print settings I need to fine tune. If you don't know, Voron Design recommends certain print settings for the best part strength. Stuff like 4 walls, 5 top and bottom layers, and 40% infill. My preference is gyroid. I'll be printing these in black Sunlu ABS, which is my ABS brand of choice for its wide availability, high purity, and low cost. An important note is that you want to make sure your filament is properly dried before doing these tests, as moisture can start changing some properties like the flow rate and the layer adhesion, as well as how nice the parts look. Okay, this is the part that just came off the printer. I think it turned out pretty well. Minimal stringing. My filament wasn't terribly dry like I said it should be. I was just too lazy to let it dry, to be honest. But overall, it looks pretty good. So what I'm looking out for is first, the bottom layer, the first layer. You want to look for any signs of under or over extrusion. So this would be if you could see the layer lines, or if it looked really rough, that could be respectively under or over extrusion. But this looks pretty good. Should look pretty textured, maybe a faint outline of the layer lines, that's fine. Next thing I'm looking for is the top surfaces. Feel if they're smooth, run your fingernail across them. They should be pretty smooth. If it feels rough or jaggedy, you might have some over extrusion. And if it's like visibly looking like sandpaper, that's definitely over extrusion. But these look pretty good. Like I said, Bambu printers handle flow rate and pressure advance really well. You can clearly see though that there are pretty noticeable VFAs all throughout the part on the flat walls. I'm hoping I just picked a bad test part and it's because there's like features right inside of there that they look kind of weird. But honestly, this is still certainly an improvement from what it used to look like. Okay, so I actually have an update. I printed the other half of that housing for the exhaust fan kit, and I was actually kind of right. There's some of these VFAs looking artifacts that show up, but if you notice, they're most dominant at 1, 2, 3 kind of rectangular looking spots along the surface. And inside, that's exactly where we see these 3 features pop up. I would love to know if somebody watching this video knows exactly why having those features there causes more artifacting. I would love to know more about that. My guess is that it has something to do with the material shrinkage, but you can see on kind of the lower down flat parts, there's much less artifacting there. I think this is kind of common with ABS too. I'm curious about what the mechanism is behind these artifacts here. But we have all the components we need to assemble this exhaust fan kit, so let's get to it. Okay, I know I just finished assembling this on the little time lapse, but I did find some things out that make me a little angry, so I need to include it. First of all, this is just some charcoal filter sheets that I had laying around. You buy a $20 kit to fix a problem that should have been fixed on the printer when you bought it, and they don't include the filter. This is just the exhaust fan. You have to buy the filter separately from them. That is ridiculous in my opinion. I happen to have a bunch of spare charcoal filter sheets lying around, so I cut some to size. So my problem is solved. Number 2 is much smaller, but over the course of putting this together and following the wiki that Bambu released for this, there is a very noticeable difference between the quality of documentation and assembly for this, which comes from Bambu, a for-profit company with assumingly millions of dollars to spend to help fix problems like this. Shit documentation versus Voron, a totally free resource that a bunch of people have contributed to in their free time. Like, assembling this was truly the worst experience I've had assembling something printer related all year. It's my little rant. This is done though, and it is ready for installation on the printer. So this bottom screw down here isn't going in. It looks like there's something blocking the way. We're just going to ignore it for now, and then if this turns into a problem later on, I can remove it and do it over. And then this shows up, the exhaust. So it's connected, that's cool. So that means the printer knows that the buffer is plugged in and that the exhaust fan is connected to the buffer. There's a new firmware version. Oh, cool, okay. So there's a firmware update specifically for the filament buffer and the exhaust fan. Okay, so that's up to date. I mean, I don't see anything, but I think that when we go to air management, aha, exhaust fan. Let's turn this on. Oh, that works. Oh my god, guys, I figured out what happened. On the back of the panel, there is a screw that we couldn't put in. The bed's heater cable got pinched between the rear panel and the body of the printer. So that's why I couldn't get a screw in there. I went to home the printer right now and I heard that cable get unpinched from that spot. And now I can go screw that last screw back in. Very glad that all that happened was I couldn't put a screw in and not the heater cable broke. That would be bad. So what we're gonna do now is calibrate my blue ABS that just came in so that we can use it for my Voron parts. I filmed a bunch of clips of printing those exhaust fan parts out of ABS, but I wasn't happy with my commentary and how much calibration actually took place. I've recently learned that I can connect directly to this printer in Orca Slicer using the LAN mode. So we're gonna go ahead actually